Welcome to the Seamus Evans Show. I grew up watching television, obsessive with watching TV over and over and over. While all my friends were out riding bikes, I was sitting on the couch watching movies, watching TV, and eating ice blocks. Then I grew up and I started working in television, which was amazing. And I still love watching TV. However, I'm watching the free-to-air market just slowly crumble like a slow sinking ship. I just found out there's almost 200 documentaries made here in Australia and around 55 TV shows every year in Australia. Then when you look in America, there's thousands upon thousands. And in Europe, again, hundreds, if not thousands, every single year TV shows being made. So I thought I'd get my friend on, Adam Cox, who is in the reality television obdoc style industry. He's the man behind the lens. Coxie, hello, mate.
G'day, Seamus. How are you?
So when I say those figures, almost 200 docos in Australia and around 55 television shows. And then when you hear America, hundreds, if not thousands, they can't actually put a number to it because it's just so massive. How does that make you feel?
It feels like there's a lot of different groups of people making content, man, non-stop. I just feel like there's too much content, if anything. It's everywhere. It's an overwhelming amount of content, always out. So there's, I just think today we're sport for choice, which you would assume is a good thing, but I actually don't know if it is, to be honest. So I guess you could say, what am I trying to say? I just feel like it's changed a lot. Habits have changed a lot, and it seems like there's something for everyone. But often I feel like when you go to look for something to watch in terms of a documentary or a TV show, it's just, there's so many different platforms to look at. You can look online on YouTube, you can go on your TV, you can look at Prime, Netflix. And for me personally, I usually just watch DVDs.
DVDs, stepping back into the early 2000s.
Kind of remotely as well. Yeah, it's a whole new world. It's changing very fast. In some ways, it's a very exciting time because things are being able to be made that probably weren't possible, 10, 15 years ago. So it's great. I think it's cool that there's a lot more opportunity for younger people and people trying to break into that market than there used to be. So although there is an overwhelming amount of content to go through, I think it's cool that it gives creators opportunity now.
I wonder, I remember as a kid, the whole family would get around the small little television, and at 7:30 on a Tuesday, we'd watch the family show, whether it was Family Feud, The Simpsons, the latest episode of whatever, Friends, like some of these upcoming shows, and they would bring the family together. Now it's a little bit of running your own race where you can kind of allocate your own time and binge watch whatever your favorite show is. What do you reckon makes a show cut through where everybody watches with a cult following? For example, let's look at Game of Thrones, right? Everybody has too much option out there to consume great television and even sometimes bad television because there's just so much option. But what do you reckon it is about like the Game of Thrones, the Breaking Bad, the Sopranos, that kind of cuts through and everybody watches it?
Well, I think it just starts from a really good script, a really good story. That obviously takes the show a very long way for a start. I mean, you'd think it was a given, but yeah, in all those ones that you mentioned, they're quite engaging scripts and pretty interesting, well laid out characters. So that's kind of where you start from. But I think in terms of like getting that kind of cultural momentum or that movement, I think initially it probably starts with word of mouth, but then it just it travels online. Things start to become, I don't know, it's almost like they trend a little bit. They become just part of the cultural zeitgeist a little bit. Like everyone's seen the Breaking Bad memes and everyone knows the Sopranos and all those big shows. But yeah, I just think, it starts from a good story. It's well put together, and then people just start talking about it. I mean, when we were growing up, when I was at school, the things people were talking about in terms of the next day at school was an episode of The Simpsons. That's because everyone was watching The Simpsons, because at about 6 o'clock at night, there was nothing else that my kind of age group really wanted to see apart from The Simpsons. So you talk about it the next day. Everyone knew about it.
Or even if you look at the timeline of activity during the day, at 6 o'clock, you're sitting around waiting for dinner. So there's nothing else, like you're not really doing anything else. But I guess gone is that timetable. Like only a few years ago, the social media rule was post on Tuesdays and either post first thing in the morning when people wake up or post, just before dinner time. Because that's when they found statistically people were on their phones. Now it's just all the time, anytime, post multiple times. And that was a real shift during COVID because everybody started living their own race, essentially. And everyone's schedules completely changed. I guess it's almost gone are the days of that, I guess, typical family life. You wake up, you have your cereal, you go to work or school, you come home, you put the TV on, you have dinner, you put the TV on and go to bed. Now, with working from home, multiple different lifestyles, multiple different diverse families, I guess, the consuming patterns have really changed over the years.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it is television or if it's humans.
Well, yeah. So again, growing up, there was one TV in our house, so one screen. So just the nature now of having, I mean, in my house now, there's one, two, let me just count the screens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, there would be probably around about 10 screens, right? So there's this whole idea of watching things together I think was much more common back then, because that was the only option. You either sat down in front of that one screen and you kind of thought about what you were going to watch, or you just went and did something else. So it definitely did encourage a more of a family atmosphere at certain times. And that's when variety shows were more popular as well. And even like watching TV, like sport as a family, I remember was a lot more common. At least I think it's more common than it is now. Anyway.
Do you know what I found
technology
fascinating?
Changed it.
Yeah. What I found fascinating is there is a formula to good content, to good story, to good television, right? And what I'm noticing with Mr. Beast, obviously he started out making as many YouTube videos as he could to try and work out what was viral. Then he worked out a pattern of needing to change something every 8 seconds to keep them engaged. Now, if you look at a lot of his content, it actually reminds me of like kind of trashy television 10, 15 years ago. That same kind of format. And I was like, if that's what he's evolved to become, it looks like there's been a science to how we like to watch things. And that formula will never go away. And I feel like he's kind of evolved into creating content that was fantastic 20 years ago. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
I think I know where you're coming from. I mean, I'm not overly familiar with Mr. Beast's work, but I just think the idea of seeing people on screen having fun, getting excited, having stakes on screen in large groups, that probably isn't new. In Australia, older people will know a show like, it's called It's a Knockout. And that was, do you know that show?
Yeah,
Basically, it was a show with lots of games, and similar to what Mr. Beast does. They have to participate in the challenges and people get knocked out and the winners get to the top at the end. But it was just good fun. So I think if programming or content can make you feel good, laugh and enjoy what you're seeing on screen, once you finish, you feel good after it, then that's really the bottom line. So even though the delivery is kind of different, human emotion hasn't changed and what humans react to hasn't changed.
I think there's also something to be said about making something that isn't that deep. Like, I feel like a lot of times people want to make art and put something out there that's really thought-evoking and emotive and really strong and powerful. Whereas I have found, I think a lot of people just want to forget. So they want surface entertainment rather than philosophical sometimes. Obviously, it depends on what the individual is chasing. But I feel like what makes something viral or popular is sometimes the trashy shit. You know what I mean?
Well, I just think that's good old fashioned escapism at the end of the
Yeah.
day. And if you have a long day and you've got a lot of stresses in your life and you just want to come home and you really just want to switch off for a little bit, then programming is the perfect way to do that. I don't think there's anything wrong with watching content that's, not overly intellectual. Like, if you
Yeah.
want to relax for a little bit and have fun, why not? Like, I quite like kind of stupid, very low, bad story action movies, things like that, because they're
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
fun and you can watch things explode and people fight each other. It's a fun little escape.
You're right. I've just started watching the John Wick series. I finished the second movie last 2 nights ago, and you're right. It's trashy. Like, it's funny in terms of it's not a very good quality film, but it's great to watch. There's
Yeah.
a lot of shooting, a lot of great action. You kind of laugh at the acting, so to speak. You can buy into the character. Ruby Rose is in it, and she sucks. I bet you. Have you seen John Wick 2, by the way?
No.
So you know who Ruby Rose is?
Yeah.
The Australian DJ, and then she had a crack at it, Hollywood with John Wick 2. But she does sign language in the movie, and I bet you it's because she can't act. And they're like, nah, don't give her any speaking roles because she's not a good actor. Make her do sign. Anyway,
Nice.
good old Ruby. Now, you are a shooter producer in the reality TV / obdoc. Like,
Yeah.
that's what you do, observational documentary. So, like, run us through your work, what it is that you actually do on a day on set. What's your role, and what does it look like from your end?
Yeah, I'd say it's mostly a doc or observational documentary is the kind of space that it's called. It's not true observational documentary in its like purest form, which I think way back when that term came up just involved cameras filming in an environment and not having anything to do with the subjects at all. It literally just fly on the wall. So go into an old classroom from way back when, and just filming what takes place. The teacher, how she works, the students, how they interact, and just kind of put it all together. Observational, but so what I would do, it's kind of, I guess, a little bit of a hybrid role of that. So for the most part, it's and it depends on the show. Every single program is different in their style and approach and what series producers are looking for. But most of the time, what I'm doing is I'm working with real people, their genuine lives, and them in the workplace. So for instance, I mean, everyone's familiar with these styles of shows. I mean, I guess one of the most popular ones you'd think of as something like Cops, which has
Oh,
been
yeah.
running for so long. And obviously, in that show, you've got a cameraman who goes along with the cops during their shift. They're filming in the front of their car. They're talking to the cop along the way. What are you up to tonight? Where you going? Why? So you're asking questions of them. And that's why it's called a shooter producer, because you're producing at the same time as filming, even though it's definitely not what I would call heavy producing. It's more guiding or light producing, like just trying to extract elements out of the story that may not be obvious. And in a case like Cops, it's just like literally, where are you going and why? Like they're your fundamentals. And why do you have to do that? So you're always asking why, what's this, what's that, etc., etc.
Like an annoying
And
5-year-old kid. Why are you doing
yeah,
this?
yeah, pretty much. That's
Why are you
your
doing it?
role for the whole time. And just trying not to get in their way as well while they do their job. So yeah, I've done TV shows with police before, with paramedics before, with truckers, with demolition crews, miners, vets, vet nurses, construction people, scientists. So in all of these fields, the format is fairly similar. You're just looking for the story of the day. You're trying to find any challenges that they may have that'll make their job or that day a little bit more interesting for the viewer, and try and tell really about what's transpiring on screen. Because it is just a little bit of a fly on the wall into the day, into an interesting job at the end of the day, and then it gets cut together over with a bunch of other stories from a bunch of other days, and eventually gets made into a TV show. So yeah, my day is just turning up, getting the gear ready, meeting the people, getting the mics on, and then we'll see what happens from there.
How do you balance that wanting to capture everything but not be annoying? Like, imagine, the cops are chasing down this bad guy. Excuse me, Sergeant, Mate, what's happening here? Sorry. Oh, can you say it again? The microphone. Hang on, just come here. I'll change the microphone. Like, at what stage are you balancing that? Because that could be awkward in interacting versus observing.
Well, you got to pick your moments. So the best moments to actually get that information are obviously when you're on the way to something significant happening, because there's not much they can do while you're in the car, right? They're just on the way, so you can ask a few questions there. Once they're on scene, or once they're, the subjects of who you are filming is deep into something, you do have to be aware of what you're asking, what time. Like if a vet is right in the middle of a really tricky surgery and they're stressed out trying to figure out what's going on, and it's literally life or death, you don't really jump in with questions. You just kind of watch, because you know that you'll get that time later. Or once things have calmed down to the point where you can ask, that's when you jump in. So, in a cop, for example, if they're in the middle of putting the cuffs on someone, you're not going to ask questions. You just watch, and then once they're free and they've done their job, you might be able to, throw a few comments in there, like, how you think that went? What was the most challenging part of that? What were you worried about? Whatever. Things that come to you at the time. So yeah, I think that's a big part of being good at that job, because if you're very annoying and you kind of only think about yourself and your needs in those situations, you don't get invited back. People will be like, I really don't want that dude coming back with us again. That was really frustrating. So that's a huge part of the job, is just being able to blend in seamlessly with the other people.
Like being that annoying kid to get the answers, but not being an annoying kid where you're annoying.
Yes. I mean, naturally it is, I don't know, depending on the person, it can be annoying to answer questions. Some people don't like being asked questions at all. And so for them, they're probably not the best pick to be on a TV show being filmed. Other people don't mind it. So you just got to analyze the person that you're with and see how they react to, I guess, your presence and your questions. And if you feel like they're getting stressed, you just back off a little bit. But if they seem more open to it, then you can push it. So in these situations, you're always kind of using your people skills to judge the situation and ultimately see how far you can go without upsetting them, really.
Now, you and I met many years ago working on Totally Wild. We used to work at Channel 10 together. And, the amount of creativity that came out of that office, the amount of genius and talent. I'm not just talking about you and I, but I mean everybody there. They were very talented. Here in Australia, there are so many talented, gifted, creative people, yet not much stuff gets made here in Australia compared to the States, compared to Europe, compared to England. Why do you reckon it is so hard to get a television show off the ground here in Australia?
Well, I've never tried to get a television show off the ground in Australia, so it's a tough one for me to answer. For me personally, I just apply to work on television shows that have already been approved. But I mean, we do have a much smaller population than the United States, for example. They've got over 300 million. We've got, 27 million or whatever it is in Australia. So it's a smaller population, it's a smaller industry, and it's a much smaller audience. So really, if you make something, you're probably ultimately aiming to make something that's going to appeal not just to Australians, but to markets all around the world. And that's probably not an easy thing to do. I know a lot of the shows that I've worked on, it seems that the producers are focusing a lot on things that are quite unique to Australia that people internationally are curious about, whether it's our wildlife or our activities in the outback, which are really quite unique compared to other parts of the world. Just kind of leaning into that unique territory of our national identity and workforce that separates it from the rest of the world. That seems to be what's popular.
I reckon funding has something to do with it as well. Like, Australia ain't putting up something to rival Friends or Seinfeld. That's probably why we're trying to go so niche towards what makes Australia Australia and niche to Australia. Because with everybody having Netflix, everybody having YouTube, everybody having Stan, Amazon, Prime, you name it, at the touch of a finger, we've got Hollywood exports of television and movies. Then you go to Sydney and get, a rerun of Water Rats. It doesn't compete. It just doesn't compete, which is a real shame. And I've observed Australian cinema improve dramatically in like the last 10 years. And what I've found, I reckon it's gone down a little bit more of a drama, lower budget, good script writing, good acting angle. Like if you look at that movie Breathe with Simon Baker, I think it is. Simon Baker, the surfing movie. Great movie. Really good movie. And simple. Didn't seem like a massive budget. So I reckon America, massive budget, John Wick. Australia, low budget, good acting, good story. Like having to just go, what works in our favor? How can we actually put something on the global map? And I definitely think we've stepped it up inside the last 10 years.
What's your most? What shows do you like the most from the last 10 years, or TV or
In
movies?
Australian movie.
Ones. Yeah.
Can't even remember the name. Now, there was a really good one I watched where a young girl and a camel traveled across Australia. I think it's called Tracks. I think it is. That was really, really well done. Breathe was a great movie. Animal Kingdom, really, really good. Even in terms of television, the first series of Underbelly, incredible, really good. There's a lot of Australian stuff that doesn't just hold up in Australia, but against the best of Hollywood, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
I watched a movie the other night, though. It was probably the worst movie I've ever seen in my whole entire life. It was horrible. And this movie took 10 years to make. I remember thinking, guys, why did you continue? It's the worst ever. The acting was just abysmal and my goodness.
Man?
I'm not going to say. And I can't say because
That's all right. You don't have to say.
I know they're good anyway. But yeah, I don't know. I definitely think Australia has stepped it up, but I actually get worried about the Australian television industry, especially with our free-to-air television stations constantly in the news for losing money, making redundancies and things like that. When in the shows that you work on, obviously you don't have to say what they are, but what platforms are they typically on? Is it free-to-air or streaming?
Combination, to be honest. From what I've seen, they get released on your major free-to-air channels, but also they will pop up on streaming as well. Yeah, across the board in terms of the free-to-air channels, but I've also seen them on Prime and Apple TV and streamers as well. So it just depends on the show and how good they are, I guess, at selling it. I'm not involved in that side of the business, but it is kind of cool when you see them pop up where you're not expecting them to. Yeah. So these days, I guess for those people making those shows, they're not just eyeing free to air. They're trying to get it spread out as far as they can, as many eyeballs as you can.
If you were to get a TV show off the ground, this is a hypothetical we're going to play. Adam Cox comes up with the idea, brilliant idea. What's your approach? What's your step-by-step how to get it from concept to broadcast? What would you do?
Probably, if once I had a good idea that I'd thought about long enough, I'd probably approach an established production company and kind of lean on their experience and their networks and probably go that route, I would say. I wouldn't try and do it all on my own. Yeah.
Leverage off someone else.
Well, leverage off working with an established production company that had done it before. I don't think I'd just try and make it.
Well, it's like the music industry, or when you look at DJs and artists, a DJ will work with someone and put two names together and then it elevates them because they kind of leverage off someone else's brand name. It's the same kind of thing. Also, like it's almost influencing business as well. Yeah. Influencers, they leverage off other brands. In fact, it's almost the same model as, come on, Seamus, what's that guy's name? Simon Beard, who started Culture Kings. He would sell really good products in his store and then put his own products on the shelf. So you've got Nike, Adidas, Chicago Bulls, New York Yankees hats, and then his hat in the middle of it. I guess it would be a similar approach.
Yeah, I guess so. But I think, and again, it's not something I've tried to do before, but I think basically what happens is for those that are funding TV programs or new programming in Australia, they're more likely to commit to it if they're working with someone that they have familiarity with. that they've worked with before. It's much more of a gamble to give a bunch of funding money to a complete unknown and see how they go. So I think that they get a little bit more confidence if you're working with a production company.
Well, I guess, gone are the days of, I'm going to make you a star, kid. I'm going to take a chance on you. Here's $100 million. Go and make a movie. And he's fresh out of high school. Like it just doesn't happen like that anymore. I mean, I get, like, for example, the Saw. Remember that movie?
Yeah.
This is one of those success stories of two Australians. They made a great movie on a low budget over in America because it's just better over there. And then look at that whole franchise. It just got up and running. But it's so hard for people.
Well, how much was the budget to make Saw? Do you know anything?
Let's have a look. How much was the?
But again, that comes back to I think
1.2,
right, which is really, that's not much at all. So
that's nothing.
It really just comes back to the basic of, is it engaging? Is it an interesting story? Is it well put together? I don't think money necessarily makes a good piece of content. It might make it appear flashy, but that doesn't mean it's good. So yeah, it just always comes back to those fundamentals, I think.
But that's what I mean. Saw, if you look at it, essentially it was two people in a room.
But it was a very engaging story.
That's right. The meat and potatoes needs to be story, but not just story, it's character depth and development. That's what I've noticed. One of the biggest setbacks when I watch a movie and I go, or a TV show, and I'm like, oh, this sucks, it's not gripping. And you can tell that they're acting because there's no depth and there's no arc, there's no development. It's just a bloke trying to deliver a line how he thinks this made up character with no depth has, and that's how he would deliver it. That's why I think one of the biggest things people miss is what is the background of this human that you're pretending to be.
Right. Yeah. I definitely think story's super important. I mean, and I'm not saying Saw has an incredible story, but I just think that it started with that question of how is this bloke going to get out of this when he was, is he going to saw off his own foot, right? That was the big question mark. And it's like that with YouTube these days. That's why they call it clickbait. It always starts with a thumbnail and a question. And Mr. Beast does a similar kind of concept,
7 days
who's going to hold onto the car for the longest to get the car or whatever. It's the big question. There's the stakes. Here we go. It's kind of a tried and true formula that seems to work pretty well. What I find quite interesting also these days is, I guess, just how viewing tastes kind of morph, especially with video shorts now and what people are happy to watch and observe. So have you ever heard of the idea of brain rot programming?
Yeah. Yes.
So yeah, and apparently that's something that, large groups of people actually quite like. It's just complete, they might
trash.
call it AI slop of like a kitten parachuting out of an airplane and getting your best friend on the ground. And it's all completely weird and all that. But there seems to be an audience for that kind of stuff as well. And I think audiences are getting more comfortable with AI being integrated into their program, or at least they're just not bothering to complain about it, at least. It's just because you're seeing a lot of it.
A lot of it. I wonder if AI production will go really well, or I wonder if humans will really desire man-made stuff, or if it's going to be a human creating something with AI rather than AI doing it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
The moment I see something AI, I scroll past. It annoys me.
There's a lot of people that hate it. And I think it's natural to kind of question, especially when it is in that uncanny valley territory. And for those who don't know what the uncanny valley is, it's basically when you're looking at something that is supposed to be human, but you can kind of tell that it's not human. It's a little bit too close to being human, but not quite human. So your brain kind of rejects it. And AI kind of can do that a little bit. But yeah, as much as people hate it, I think it's going to become more popular. I think people are experimenting a lot with it now in its kind of infancy. And it is in its infancy, and that's what's kind of quite scary, but also interesting, I think, is where it goes from now. I think I saw a story today about an AI actor that a lot of people are commenting about. I think the
The new
idea of it is pretty interesting. But, AI is a threat to a lot of industries. And if you can make content that people like to watch that makes them feel good, sadly, well, it's just what it is. If people like what they're watching, they're going to watch it. And I don't think audiences will necessarily decide, no, I'm not going to watch it because it's AI. I think a lot of people won't even think about it, or they just won't even know. In the future, at least. Right now, we know, but if you don't know, then you can't even react to it, can you?
I guess AI, what path it will take, really is determined by how many humans will consume it. There's this quote that I remember hearing years ago when I used to go to church, and it was, "What you feed grows, and what you starve dies." So if humans are using AI for multiple different forms of content, I guess it all kind of falls on who's watching and if they actually watch it. Because if it is too obscure and humans are like, I don't like it, but then creators find a natural path which does get the followers, does get the viewers, and does get, I guess, the popularity, then we'll keep making more of that. Whatever you feed will grow, whatever you starve will die, right?
Mm, mm, mm.
I guess we just don't
Yes,
know.
yeah, that's right. I mean, you're seeing a lot of it in advertising already, and I think that's just because ultimately it's cheaper and it's faster. And if it's not affecting their bottom line, then I think advertisers will probably continue to go down that path. If they can get a voiceover done that sounds like an old British man or sounds close enough and it costs a lot cheaper, they're probably going to do that. And I think for creatives, yeah, I think there will be a lot that kind of go down a similar path. If they want to make something that's kind of animated and they don't have the resources to get actors and pay for camera people and all that kind of thing, and they want to experiment with AI, they probably will. But obviously, I'm sure it's been done to death. Everyone talks about the risks of using AI and people losing their jobs and all the negative. There's obviously a lot of potential downsides to AI, but there's also a lot of creative opportunities that can come from it as well. But will it make things better or worse? I don't know.
What do you reckon? I agree. It's whoever takes the stick and runs with it, and if it works for them, it's going to work, and we just don't understand how it's going to go. What do you reckon would be, in your view, both in Australia and around the world, the greatest TV show ever made? And you can either answer this in your opinion, as in like your favorite, as well as objectively what you think the greatest one is. So like, for example, Seinfeld arguably is one of the greatest TV shows, given its popularity, given how it stands the test of time, but it might not be your favorite. You might prefer Neighbours.
It's a difficult question to answer. I've never really thought about it, to be honest. Greatest TV show ever made.
Because there's a few categories that you could slot one into. For example, The Simpsons. Like in terms of art, that might not be up there. But in terms of the greatest, the most well known, is probably a very high contender.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just feel like it's a very subjective question. It's going to be different for every single person.
Yeah. That's why if you answer, it doesn't matter what you answer.
Yeah.
It's not wrong.
Well, that's why for me, I don't have a favorite show. I wouldn't say that I watch a ton of TV shows anyway. Yeah. I don't think I'd be comfortable just giving you one because I don't have one.
What about multiple? Like if we list out, so here I'm going to list out a whole range of TV shows that, in my opinion, are the GOATs, right? You got
Right.
Simpsons, Seinfeld, I think Friends was up there. It's not up there anymore. Sopranos, Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones. Let's just go with those. Out of what I've just said there, do you concur with some of the greatest television ever made? Those.
I mean, obviously they're highly notable, all of those.
What do you reckon? What do you reckon makes them so good? I reckon it's more than just. There has to be something around pop culture and the time of people's lives and what's happening in the world that propels them.
Yeah, I mean, going back to The Simpsons, when The Simpsons first came out, they were really, really different. I don't
Yeah.
think many people had seen a really kind of dysfunctional, rough, well, not rough, but like a family that reflected a lot of other families, really.
Mm.
With the dad kind of, you know, wasn't perfect and he was a bit crude, and then they had a son that was quite disobedient and rebellious, and obviously it had really good writing as well, but those characters were really strong, and every time you went back to it, you kind of knew kind of what you were going to get from those characters, and they're a little bit risque for the time as well. Like, I think a lot
Mm.
of people thought that The Simpsons was almost too rude for television. Like Bart saying, "Eat my shorts, man," probably offended a fair few people. It seems so light in, looking at it in today's lens. So yeah, I think they were kind of groundbreaking in a lot of ways. And you just got to look at how long they've been on air now. So yeah, I just think it's strong character and really good writing at the end of the day, which is kind of giving these things their longevity.
I
Same with the
think
Seinfeld.
I think with The Simpsons though, the element of it seeming like a kids show, but actually it's
Yeah,
for adults. That
yeah.
I reckon that was one of the because it came out
Well, that was new.
before. That's right. It was like the first one to do that. Now, if you watch Disney movies, you can see the references the kids won't get. Whereas Simpsons were like the first ones to do that. I
Yeah,
think that's what it was. They were groundbreaking in that sort of comedy delivery of you can watch this and dad's going to laugh, mum's going to laugh, the kids are going to laugh, but it's three different jokes and
yeah,
everyone is going to have their own sort of storyline watching it. It was like really tailoring to the family, whereas that doesn't happen anymore. You don't tailor to the family, you tailor to an individual with a niche interest, like Game of Thrones. Obviously, a lot of
yeah,
people like that, but that's not tailored to the family. That's tailored
yeah,
to an individual.
yeah. And I think again, that's just a reflection on how viewing habits have changed. Kids are looking at things on their iPads or their phones or in their rooms, and dad's watching something on his own somewhere else. Mum's watching something she likes somewhere else. I don't think that kind of family viewing is as popular as it used to be.
I think it's safe to say that Simpsons arguably is the greatest TV show ever made, purely from the references and the quotes that generations for the past 30 years have been quoting, a part of vernacular, a part of
Mm,
conversation. It's the best marketing tool ever. And the fact that they're still on the air, I think what determines greatest of all time is the consistency of output and the quality of output. So to be able to consistently put out great content, you're the best. Whereas Seinfeld, very good, only got 8 seasons. Good, great 8 seasons. But Simpsons is outperforming it.
I think where you'd probably get pushback on that, though, is that a lot of people felt that The Simpsons quality kind of downgraded a lot after a certain point in the seasons. And they
Yeah, I
obviously
can see
had
that.
their really hot moment, but then they kind of fell off. Like, for me, most of The Simpsons quotes that I think of were probably between seasons, I don't know, 3 to
Yeah,
9 or something like that. Whereas, yeah, it's not like I go out of my way to see a new season. And I think that's pretty common as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
I have tried. I've got the Disney Channel, and I'm like, oh my gosh, The Simpsons. But I can't. I don't want to watch the new seasons. I want to go back to the nostalgic episodes that
Yeah.
remind me of those great times of, oh my gosh, bedtime is ages away. I mean, you know what's interesting? It's only a 25-minute show, right? Well, it went for half an hour given ad breaks, but it felt like a lifetime. And when you watch them now, they go so quick, and you're
I
like,
do.
oh, I want to keep watching.
What I think I really liked about The Simpsons and a fair bit of programming back then was that they would explore topics and stories that were really relevant to people growing up in a family or as teenagers or difficulties in marriage, things like that. And I think of episodes like when Lisa decides she doesn't want to eat animals anymore. And she has that real run in with Homer because Homer really likes eating meat. And the whole idea of that episode was how are these two going to, I don't know, exist around each other when they have such clear boundaries on what they think is okay and what's not okay. And
Yeah.
what I really liked about that was, Homer put the effort in to kind of learn a little bit about Lisa and why she feels that way. And he tried to reconcile with her. And she also initially started really judgmental of Homer, thinking he was a real kind of bad dude. But then she kind of started to be a little bit more forgiving of him and his choices as well, and they came back together. And that's just one example. But those kind of stories that kind of explored interesting family dynamics and relationship challenges on a quite a sweet and emotional level, and it's not just about, stupid, silly jokes, were
Yeah.
quite poignant and helped you learn a lot when you're growing up. And I thought those kind of stories were always being played out back then in 90s programming. You'd see it in things like Roseanne or in things like Degrassi Junior High, the original
Yeah.
one. Things like Family Matters. They always used to delve into topics that affected the family dynamic or challenges growing up, things like that. And I think that actually is missing a lot today. That kind of very basic level challenges of being a young person or growing up in a challenging family. I don't think those stories are played out as much, and I think young people today, they're missing out a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it's the conflict, and it's a simple conflict with character depth. That's where I feel a lot of TV shows or movies miss the point, is when they try and make it quite complex, try and make it really detailed, like an adventure. And sometimes you just have to cut the mustard by having a simple problem with in-depth character.
Yeah.
That is what's going to be engaging.
Yeah. And I suppose these days for people making programming, they're trying to do things that haven't been done before. Things that I just spoke about have been done a lot in the past. So they're trying to do things that are new. Something I saw recently that I thought was quite interesting, and I don't know if it's new or old. I just saw an episode of it. It might have been called Jury Duty or something like that.
Yeah.
And I only saw one episode, but the basic concept, it seemed, was there's a jury taking place, right? But the thing is, everyone, including the judge, the jury, the staff, they're all actors except for one guy.
Brilliant. I love this. I have heard of it before, but I've never seen it.
You should watch an episode because it was pretty. I was pretty entertained myself, just to how it came together. Yeah,
What I love.
And obviously, the producers and the writers can come up with all kinds of things to play out to see how this guy reacts.
Well, it's the ultimate prank, right? It's a kid's prank with money. Boy, imagine if we could get everyone involved and just completely punk this guy,
Yeah. I liked it.
Oh, man. I love it. Jury Duty. All right, I'll have to look it up.
I might be wrong. I don't know if that's the name.
I'll have a search. All right, I'll wrap it up. So I guess that's what makes observational documentaries so good, because what you are doing, you are capturing a simple conflict with character depth because they're real people, they're not actors. So I guess that's why humans like observing real life situation, and that's what television shows and movies try and recreate. A simple conflict in an everyday person's life. That, for some reason, that's why it's entertaining. Look at Big Brother, for example. Let's get a whole bunch of people in a house. They're everyday people. Let's see what happens. Small, daily, regular, relatable conflicts happen and unfold. It's weird. Why do humans want to see other humans doing the same stuff we go through? You know what I mean? Oh, well, that happened to me last week. Let's watch what happens. Watching other people do your life. It's weird.
Yeah, I guess just because it's relatable. Conflict is the basis of entertainment at the end of the day. If there's no conflict, there's really not much reason to keep watching. Yeah, it's things have to be engaging, and if it all runs smoothly, then well, it's not going to get very exciting, is it?
Yeah, how boring. Well, mate, hey, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you being a guest on the Seamus Evans Show.
Yeah, no worries, man. Anytime.
Very much appreciate it. And if you're watching now, listening now, I'd love to know what you think is the greatest show of all time. What is the GOAT television show? Is it The Simpsons? I think it's fair to say The Simpsons. It's pretty easy to give it the crown. Greatest television show of all time. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are in the comments. Thank you so much for listening and watching. I'll catch you next time.